This week on Adventist News Network, World Church leaders prepare for a key business meeting.
A new religious freedom report identifies changing attitudes towards people of faith.
And an Adventist college earns recognition for diversity.
These stories and more coming up.
This is Adventist News Network, a service of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church. Thanks so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, hundreds of Adventist leaders from around the world are meeting this week at World Church headquarters in the U.S. state of Maryland. They're in town for Annual Council, one of the church's biannual business meetings. Annual Council brings together the church's executive committee, a group of more than 350 World Church leaders. The delegates will hear major presentations from the church's three top officers, the president, the secretary, and the treasurer. They'll also hear reports on church initiatives, such as Revived by His Word, a Bible reading program that invites Adventists worldwide to join together in reading a chapter of the Bible every day. An update from the Theology of Ordination Study Committee is also on the docket. The committee was established last month to study the biblical theology behind the Christian tradition of ordination.
I know many church members have been praying especially for this council. We have some important issues to decide. I wish they had the opportunity that I've had to watch world leaders from different cultures who passionately sometimes discuss issues where they differ, but in the end, we can come together, we can pray together, and we can go away unified in purpose.
Beginning Sunday, October 14, watch for daily Annual Council news updates on Hope Channel and online at news.adventist.org.
The latest edition of the Religious Freedom World Report is out this month. The publication is released by the Adventist World Church's Department of Public Affairs and Religious Liberty. It summarizes the human rights record of each country and identifies government and private attitudes towards minority faith groups. While the report focuses on the experiences of Seventh-day Adventists, it points out that religious restrictions toward all people of faith are on the rise. A study released last month by the Pew Research Center drew similar conclusions. Researchers there found that Christians currently face the most restrictions, followed closely by Muslims.
The World Report is a fabulous tool, actually, that anyone can use anywhere to have an idea of what is going on in a given country. Actually, it holds those countries accountable on, about their human rights records. And it is also a tool that can raise awareness and solidarity with all the people suffering. You know, in many countries there are restrictions to religious freedom, and sometimes government restrictions, and sometimes, some of the time, popular hostility.
You can find the Religious Freedom World Report online at AdventistLiberty.org.
Adventist humanitarians are helping to improve prenatal and infant health in Western China. The Adventist Development and Relief Agency has trained community health workers who visit expectant mothers in their homes across the Tibetan Plateau. Over the past year, they've seen a decrease in birth complications and infant mortality rates. The program is also changing attitudes towards prenatal health care in the region. In the coming years, ADRA officials say they plan to triple the number of women and newborns who benefit from the program.
An Adventist college in the U.S. state of California has one of the nation's most diverse campuses. The U.S. News and World Report has ranked Pacific Union College the country's second most ethnically diverse liberal arts college. School officials welcomed the ranking. They say living, working, and studying with a broad spectrum of people gives students an opportunity to think critically about new ideas.
A new literacy training center in Albania is helping members of the Roma community integrate into wider society. In addition to literacy classes, the center provides counseling on issues such as disease prevention, marriage, family planning, and employment. The project is sponsored by the Adventist Development and Relief Agency and the Austrian Development Agency. The Albanian Minister of Education thanked ADRA for its continuing support of vulnerable communities in the region. ADRA was the first non-governmental organization to work in post-communist Albania.
Adventist Colleges Abroad is celebrating 50 years of learning without borders this year. The Study Abroad program is operated by the church's education department in North America. School officials say they're gearing up for a record-breaking year. About 400 students are already enrolled for the coming school year, the highest annual enrollment since the program launched in the early 1960s. Earlier today, I sat down with ACA Director Odette Friera to learn more. Thank you so much, Odette, for joining us. Adventist Colleges Abroad recently expanded to include Middle East University in Lebanon. What unique opportunities does this location offer?
I think it's one of the most interesting programs that ACA has to offer. One of the reasons is that Arabic is a very important language in the international arena these days. It also opens the door for a lot of international careers. And it's, of course, very important to this multicultural church, a world church where we need to speak also that language. It's very interesting to be also in that very different culture and a fascinating country with so much ancient history, biblical events, and so on. So we consider it one of our most interesting and vital programs.
Where do you see the program expanding next?
We already have 12 languages being taught through ACA in 14 different countries. So we just about cover what we would say the most important language, even though every language is important in this world. But of course the most important ones are the Spanish ones in Argentina and Spain, but all of them have particular interest for each student. We are thinking maybe that we'll go more into Chinese Mandarin and also probably into Korean, because there are so many American students in this church who are from Korean origin, and it would be important. We normally choose our programs according to what the students require or demand, according to their needs, and many people are asking for Korean and Chinese Mandarin at this point.
What kind of feedback do you hear from students when they've just returned home?
I can summarize that in just one sentence: the best year of my life. That's what each student says when they come back. It's just amazing, but that's really what they say. And they consider it a life-changing experience. And not only the students say that, but even the parents, their professors in the American universities, their friends, just about everybody. So we are very happy to have these programs, not only for the language, but for cross-cultural awareness, which is so important in this global world and in our church. So the students always say that it changed their lives forever. The way they look at the world, the way they see other people, other cultures, other civilizations. That's important for us as human beings and as children of God.
Thanks, Odette. Coming up, we'll have a preview of the latest issue of Adventist Review. The magazine explores forgiveness and reconciliation.
The Lord is my rock, my fortress and my deliverer. My God is my rock, in whom I take refuge. He is my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold.
Welcome back. Let's turn to Walona Karamabadi for a look at this week's issue of Adventist Review.
In this week's edition of Adventist Review, we take a close look at an important issue facing our church at the moment. In our cover feature, editor Bill Knott sits down with Arthur Stelly of the Biblical Research Institute to acquaint readers with the study on women's ordination that is currently underway. Mark Kellner's editorial talks about the notion that love is all you need, and of course, where to go for answers when you need just a bit more. Then Dan Jackson, president of the North American Division, relates the story of a friendship that soured and then was healed, offering all of us hope that forgiveness and reconciliation is always possible. We think you'll gain something from reading these articles this week and encourage you to share them and discover more by visiting our website at www.adventistreview.org.
On Sabbath, October 13th, Adventists will observe Spirit of Prophecy Sabbath. Spirit of Prophecy refers to the writings of church co-founder Ellen White. The Emphasis Day is a chance for church members around the world to remember early Adventist pioneers. This week, Cindy Touche shares another way to celebrate Adventist heritage.
Are you planning a vacation in the near future? Maybe a weekend road trip? If you live in the United States or are planning a trip to the United States, consider including a few Adventist heritage sites in your planning and strengthen your AHQ. That's Adventist History Quotient. I just came back from a 10-day heritage tour, and though I'm so over that long bus ride, we saw many fascinating places. The Adventist Church has purchased Joseph Bates' boyhood home in Fairhaven, Massachusetts, and is in process of restoring it. And of course, we went to the Washington, New Hampshire church. That's the earliest Sabbath-keeping Millerite church that is still an Adventist church today. It's way out in the country, and there's a beautiful Sabbath trail winding through the woods behind the church. 31 large granite stones along the trail trace the history of the Sabbath. The William Miller Farm, located in Lowhampton, upstate New York, will also be an important stop on your heritage journey. Here you can take a tour of William Miller's restored home, the chapel he built on his property in 1848, and his gravesite. Every time of year is a great time to visit Miller's farm, but I can tell you from experience that the scenery in that rural setting is particularly spectacular in the colorful fall foliage. And of course, you and your family or friends just must not miss the historic Adventist village in Battle Creek, Michigan. If you visit in the summer, you will enjoy tour guides dressed in period costumes who will tell you about the three-block village recreated to represent the 19th century, with many authentic or replicated buildings and heirlooms. For specific directions on lots of interesting Adventist heritage info, check out Merlin Burt's book titled Adventist Pioneer Places, New York and New England.
For this week's Adventist social media feature, our Facebook and Twitter followers shared what strengthens their faith. Megan Bronner reports.
This week, we wanted to hear our social media followers' thoughts on spiritual growth. We asked them what makes them stronger Christians, and here's what they said. On Twitter, KingVirus22 says, "What makes my faith stronger is me being alive every morning to see the sun rise and fall." Rico JB says, "My faith grows stronger the more I hear God's voice in my life, knowing that He still finds time to talk to me." Vezja MX says, "My faith grows bigger as I get involved in church activities, such as sharing, helping, meeting, enjoying." Our Facebook friends also weighed in. Jerome says, "Trials in life make my faith grow strong. More trials means more prayer means more opportunity to talk to Him and entrust my unknown tomorrow to my known God." Diane says she leaves her burdens in God's hands and sees His amazing outcome. Eve says her faith grows by praying and walking by faith, not by sight, and believing God has her best at heart. And Betty says her faith grows stronger with daily study of God's Word. Thanks for all your responses this week, and come back next week when we talk to Dwayne Leslie of Public Affairs and Religious Liberty.
Religious liberty advocates say they're seeing growing international support for freedom of belief. John Grotz has more.
The 7th International Religious Liberty Association World Congress was the largest congress ever organized by our association. 50 university professors, experts, religious leaders, government officials, and participants from non-governmental organizations were included in the program. More than 70 nationalities were represented. Officials from countries like Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, Cuba, Colombia, and of course the Dominican Republic attended. The venue of the Congress was a beautiful resort near Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic. And on Saturday, a festival of religious freedom was held in the capital city, Santo Domingo. Ministers of government, members of parliament, religious leaders, and many other people attended. The program was excellent with a great participation of young people. The feedback received from the participants was also excellent as a result of the Congress. National and regional congresses have been planned for the next few years. We are already thinking about the next World Congress in 2017. It will be another big event. Religious freedom is so important for all, and especially for those who are persecuted, that we cannot be satisfied with a small event when we can do more. Our God, who is the God of freedom, will help us.
Still ahead on Adventist News Network, is chocolate good for you? We have a doctor's take on some recent studies.
But up next, this week's Tech Corner.
As I was reading The Great Hope, I came across this phrase, which was simple but said a lot to me. It is God's plan to employ humble instruments to accomplish great results. Why does this give me hope? Because it tells me that God can use anyone at any time. It doesn't matter if we're a great theologian or an academic professor or a doctor or a lawyer or just anyone doing anything at any time. God has a purpose and a plan for each and every one of us. Sometimes, especially working for the church, people like myself, I guess we can wonder about whether our work has any impact for what God wants accomplished in the world. And this particular phrase really reminded me that He does, and that what I think may be insignificant or simple is actually something that He can use to His benefit, and that gives me hope.
All around the world, Seventh-day Adventists are reading one chapter of the Bible per day. We call it Revived by His Word. Please join in and visit the Revived by His Word website. Open today's reading and read the accompanying blog. Add your comments or read the comments of others. Get the Google Calendar to remind you, or download the printable calendar of the reading program. Learn more about Revived by His Word and how you can tell others about this project.
Welcome back. For this week's Tech Corner, we asked Jesse Johnson for a tutorial of online directory software.
A really great way to bring a church family closer is by having a photo book, a church directory with family photos, names, and addresses. These books can be expensive to have professionally done, and someone has likely moved out of the area, and they're often out of date by the time they're printed. If your church is using the General Conference's free NetAdventist software, you've got a photo directory that can be always current and can be professionally printed whenever you want. It's called Directory. It makes the process of keeping track of members' addresses, phone numbers, emails, and more much easier. By default, Directory is set up so that it's not viewable by your guests to your website. It's only available for your members to see. It allows the families to update their own information if any of it changes. You can search through the directory or print it off to make your own color photo book. And it's web-based, so you can access it from anywhere you're on the internet. You can find out more and watch a video on how to set this up for your church website by visiting netadventist.org/documentation. Then click on Directory. I know this will be a blessing to your church and can save you both time and money.
Issues ranging from human trafficking to cancer continue to jeopardize women's health. But as Heather Dawn Small reports, women's ministry leaders are working to raise awareness of these threats in communities worldwide.
Ellen G. White writes in the book Ministry of Healing, page 147, every gospel worker should feel that the giving of instruction in the principles of healthful living is a part of his appointed work. Of this work there is great need, and the world is open for it. Did you know, on average globally, women live 6 to 8 years longer than men? In 2007, women's life expectancy at birth was more than 80 years in 35 countries, but only 54 years in the African region. Did you know that girls are far more likely than boys to suffer sexual abuse, and that road traffic injuries are the leading cause of death among adolescent girls in high and middle-income countries? Did you know that 99% of the 500,000 maternal deaths every year occur in developing countries, and that breast cancer is the leading cancer killer among women aged 20 to 59 in high-income countries? Did you know that globally, cardiovascular disease, often thought to be a male problem, is the leading killer of women? You see, health is one of the 6 issues that impact women globally. Women's Ministries is very interested in the health of our sisters globally. To make a difference, we have placed in the hands of our Women's Ministries directors health materials and other sources that can be used to educate our sisters, our church members, and women in the community. You see, we believe that nutrition, health, and mental health seminars and training can be used as an outreach so that many can benefit from them.
What should Christians base their dietary choices on? The Bible? The latest research? This week, Peter Landless explains how the principle of moderation can play a role.
The question is always asked, what is good for me to eat? What can I enjoy? If I enjoy it, it's obviously not good for me, or it's fattening. We've heard that so often. Well, the question comes up, what about chocolate? Chocolate, is it good for me? Should I eat it? Should I enjoy it? Well, people are saying there are these studies which say, and you know that some of the studies which were done on 14 people only. So that's not a huge amount of numbers to look at. But the evidence is beginning to mount more and more that a little bit of chocolate may be good for you. Now notice what I said, a little bit of chocolate. Why would chocolate perhaps be good for you? Well, it's filled with phytochemicals and antioxidants. Those are the good things that work to promote good health in our bodies. However, you need to remember that however healthy that may be, chocolate has calories, it has sugar, it has fats in it. So all of those lead to one conclusion. If you do eat it, make sure that you eat small amounts. You see, that's the whole point. Moderation and enjoyment of things that are good in small quantities. And chocolate is one of those. So, should you eat it? If you choose to, you can. Make sure that you eat it in small quantities and that it doesn't take up the room for your other discretionary calories that good foods can fill up as well.
When we come back after the break, how an Adventist soldier earned national attention without ever carrying a gun.
Every hour of every day, someone, somewhere, is praying for the outpouring of the Holy Spirit. "777", praying at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., 7 days a week.
The Great Controversy as a book puts into perspective the relevancy, the importance of the Bible in the life of a Christian. This book drew me closer to the Bible and made me make a commitment I have never made at any other time in my life to studying the Bible more than any other time.
Welcome back. Adventist World Radio recently started producing programming to reach the Eastern European country of Georgia. Dal Chow explains.
On this occasion, I'd like to talk to you about our work in the countries of the Caucasus. The Caucasus Mountains are where you find some countries like Armenia, Azerbaijan, and you can find also Georgia. We recently started for the first time production in the Georgian language. And also for the first time we were able to put programs on FM stations within the country of Armenia. That is a great, great step forward. These countries emerged out of the Soviet Union years ago, and they're looking for their own identity today. So for Adventist World Radio to be able to share the gospel in their own local languages is a great, great progress that we have made there. Today, many of the people in Georgia do not want to speak Russian anymore. They want to speak their own language. We're able to find 2 producers, excellent producers, who are now preparing programs with the gospel message to share with their country people. This is primarily done through the internet because we are not able
to put programs on local stations in Georgia. We will also use the shortwave mode to get the programs over into the country from outside the country. We would like to share with you this because we want your prayers for the people in Georgia to know about Jesus. This is a country that needs the Lord. We have very few members in that country, and this is a way to reach more people with the message.
Now let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history. This week, the church launches its official television network, and an Adventist earns the U.S. Congressional Medal of Honor.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History. On October 7, in 1953, Guide magazine, the denomination's magazine for older children and younger adolescents, published its first issue. On October 8, in 1798, John Byington was born in Vermont. He became a Methodist minister and active abolitionist, and later an Adventist pastor. In May 1863, age 64, he became the first president of the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. On October 10, in 1992, the first Adventist church in Albania was organized in the capital city of Tirana. 11 years later, on October 10, 2003, the Hope Channel launched. Starting on a wing, or a satellite, and a prayer, today there are 13 separate Hope channels and 6 internet-only channels broadcasting 24/7 in 15 major languages to audiences all around the world. On October 12, in 1945, Seventh-day Adventist medic Desmond Doss became the first conscientious objector to be awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor, the United States' highest decoration for bravery. Doss refused to carry a weapon throughout his military service, but he was twice decorated and was credited with saving 100 wounded men on Okinawa. That was This Week in Adventist History.
Thanks for watching Adventist News Network. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
In the meantime, did you know that you can show ANN video headlines in your church or school? Just go to news.adventist.org and click on any video and select Download Video in the bottom right-hand corner.
Our good news for this week comes from Romans 12. Verse 2 says, "Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will."
That's our show for this week, and remember you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.